So there is a mad dash going on right now in the AI race. And most people are talking about OpenAI, XAI, Anthropic, these startup companies as the front runners to win this AI race. But I've got news for you. One of the incumbents, Google, is actually the best position to win the AI race. And in today's video, I'm going to be breaking down why Google is the best positioned company to come out on top of this AI race, what strategic advantages they have, and what you should actually be doing with this knowledge. Let's get into it. So the first thing that you have to understand about AI is that there are 5 layers to the AI business. You have infrastructure, you have chips, you have energy, you have these frontier models, and then you have applications. And when you look at Anthropic, XAI, OpenAI, Meta, a lot of these companies have 1 or 2 of the layers. But Google is the only company that has exposure in all 5 layers of the AI cake. And we'll step through that. So infrastructure, Google has a booming cloud business, and they already lend compute to other companies, and they use this massive compute to do inference on their Google search and across their other applications. Then you think chips. And most people think about NVIDIA here, but Google has actually been producing their own chips. They call them TPUs, and they're specifically designed to be connected in large networks and do inference, a lot like you see with Google search and those AI search results that pop up. And then for energy, you might think, well, Google doesn't have any energy exposure, but you'd be wrong. Google actually just did a $5 billion acquisition of an energy company called Intersect. So Intersect does renewables and green energy, and they're going to use them to try and connect power to some of the data centers that they're bringing online for their AI model. So then you think frontier models, and everyone's heard of ChatGPT. And ChatGPT had a substantial lead on the market for a long time, but Google's Gemini model is actually competitive with ChatGPT across most benchmarks, and they have completely closed the gap with ChatGPT. And the last thing is just applications. And Google has an application suite already that most people already use. You think about Gmail, you think about YouTube, Google Maps, your Google Calendar, Google Drive. They have a huge advantage when it comes to applications because they have a bunch of proprietary data across all these different data sets to give a perfect picture of what your consumer patterns are going to be, what your work patterns are going to be, and can anticipate where the market's going to move and can build products specifically for you. So let's break down some other unique advantages that Google has. So those TPUs that Google constructed, those TPUs are actually faster than NVIDIA's GPUs at inference. They are more energy efficient than NVIDIA's GPUs at inference, and they can be connected in clusters that are just as big as the NVIDIA GPUs. And the huge advantage, and this is one of the reasons I think they're going to win the AI race, is because this AI build out requires a ton of capital. You need so much money to build out AI data centers and AI infrastructure that most of these startup companies are just borrowing billions and billions of dollars, and it's funding round after funding round after funding round, month after month. Where Google, they are completely self-funded. They're sitting on almost $100 billion in cash, and they have free cash flow of almost $60 billion a year. So that is a huge advantage where you can fully fund all your AI infrastructure investment from your free cash flow without having to strap your company with debt. And then you have to think they have some of the best and brightest minds working on this project. So before OpenAI, before XAI, Google had been working internally on artificial intelligence for years. So Demis Hassabis, who's actually the lead of Google DeepMind, he actually won a Nobel Prize for the work that he did on the AlphaFold project. And if you're not familiar with AlphaFold, essentially it used to take almost a lifetime of research to figure out the structure of a protein. And it was a three-dimensional folding problem to try and discover the structure of proteins. And they were able to apply artificial intelligence to this problem, and they just mapped pretty much all the proteins that we had in our protein database within a 2-year time frame. Demis Hassabis won a Nobel Prize for this work, and it unlocked entire fields of research for people to start working on new drugs, new vaccines, and other biological advancements that we'll probably start seeing roll out in the next few years. This man is a genius. He was a child chess prodigy, and he is continuing to push the frontier of human knowledge. And then you have Jeff Dean. So Jeff Dean is an engineer among engineers. He is world class. He is so good as an engineer that internally they have Jeff Dean jokes similar to Chuck Norris jokes. So I'll read a couple of these because they're great. Once in early 2022, when index servers went down, Jeff Dean answered user queries manually for 2 hours. Eval showed a quality improvement of 5 points. When Jeff Dean goes on vacation, production services across Google mysteriously stop within a few days, which actually did happen when he went on vacation once. Jeff Dean's resume lists things he hasn't done. It's shorter that way. And Jeff Dean doesn't exist. He's actually an advanced AI created by Jeff Dean. So you get the picture. Jeff Dean is an incredible engineer. And these two, Demis Hassabis and Jeff Dean, are the two leads working on artificial intelligence at Google. Exceptional minds with an exceptionally long track record of beating the competition. And then you have to think about the incumbent advantage of trust. People trust Google. So if you type something into ChatGPT and it sounds crazy, how do you fact check it? You plug it into Google and you look for the result. That is because Google doesn't make products that are half done. They make sure it is right every time. And that level of incumbent trust is off the charts for Google. You're going to see it when they start rolling out these Waymos across the country. They're expanding to a bunch of major cities in the United States this year. People treat those self-driving vehicles very differently than they treat the self-driving from a Tesla. There's so many sensors and so many redundant systems. People actually relax in those vehicles and aren't freaking out that they're going to have to take the wheel because the vehicle's going to drive off the road. That level of trust has a huge market advantage because you're willing to trust them with your personal data. You're willing to trust them with your life. And then another thing that's very interesting about Google is that Google is actually Nancy Pelosi's largest stock holding. And I don't know if you're familiar with Nancy Pelosi as a stock trader or her husband as a stock trader, but they're very, very good. So across the last 15 years, they've averaged annual returns between 50 and 74%. Damn! So they're beating the market by a little bit, just a little bit. And then her net worth right now is almost $413 million. She's been a public servant her entire life. There is no universe where she should have this much money. Sure, her family was well off, but they weren't knocking on the door of having $500 million when she was growing up. So her picking Google as her largest stock holding is a huge tell. She knows something about what's coming that is going to largely favor Google. And I know it's boring to pick the large incumbent company with billions of dollars of free cash flow, but this AI race is actually Google's to lose. They have no reason not to beat out OpenAI, Anthropic, xAI for the largest market share in this AI wave. And even though ChatGPT right now is the Kleenex of AI, I think that incumbent advantage of those proprietary data sets is going to win out in the end. So for me, and this is not financial advice, I intend to increase the size of my current NASDAQ 100 holdings, and I intend to buy a bit of Google directly. So I'll either buy some of the leveraged ETF of Google, which is GGLL. It's a 1.5x of Google. So if Google goes up 1%, this ETF will go up 1.5%. Just to try and juice those returns a little, and will actually allow me to keep a smaller position with the same level of returns. And if you didn't watch my 2026 market outlook, there were 3 companies that I said were a lock that you should invest in for the coming year and probably the coming few years. And those were NVIDIA, Taiwan Semiconductor, and Google. And now you know why. If you got something out of this today, like and subscribe to the channel and share it with somebody else who's looking for that next big investment. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next video.